All right, what is going on, everybody? Welcome back to another Serious Angler podcast. As always, I'm your host, Bailey Egbert, and this is my co-host and the captain, Mr. Andrew Full.
What's
What's
up?
going on, dude?
Oh, not a whole lot. Exhausted. Lake Erie was rough the last 2 days. We caught a ton of fish, and life is good. What's up with you?
Man, I'd say life is pretty damn good right now.
Congratulations.
yeah,
No.
really fast. We'll get into that in a second. But, dude, congrats to you, man. You had your first guide trips ever this past weekend, 3 days in a row, and you straight smashed them. And it sounds like your clients are beyond ecstatic.
Yeah. So on Saturday, I'm very choosy with clients because I want them to want me to fish with them so that we can break apart water to kind of like figure out what's going on, the best situation that day. So playing on Saturday with Brandon, I literally would like pick up a bait and I'm like, dude, take this. You're about to jam on him and cast there. And he would catch like 8 or 9 in a row, like cast straight. And then Sunday and today I had my buddy Rod and his uncle Will out, and we just smashed on 4+ smallies for 6-7 hours straight on one rock pile. It was just the same drift over and over again, and every time we would catch 4 to 6 fish, and it was just it was a blessing.
First guide trip, 110 fish at least caught.
Between the two of us, we caught at least 110.
That's awesome, dude.
And they were all like 2.5 to 4.5 pounds.
It's a great way to get the ball rolling, though, dude. I mean, obviously your clients went home ecstatic and super happy about the trip, and that's a great way to start it off. And now it's only up from here, dude.
Yeah, it's fun. So I got to figure out a way to market it because I want to be a very hands-on guide, but I don't want to be just like hand-holding, you know what I mean? I want to fish with you and break it down together. It's more of a tournament-style guide approach as opposed to I'm just going to get out there, sit in my captain's chair and tell you to drag your worms and we're going to catch a couple fish. Like, I want to catch as many fish as we possibly can.
Yeah. Well, I like how you're kind of approaching it, too, from a learning aspect where, like, you know, Brandon, obviously, he messaged me right afterwards and he said, dude, He goes, my confidence is at an all-time high with a Ned rig, with a swim bait, with a drop shot, because the point of him getting that guide client or that guide trip with you is to learn about that stuff, and so you can take the time to break down certain techniques with him. I think that's what's pretty cool. That's what you're doing. So I only see great success moving forward, and hopefully the weather just stays consistent for you, obviously, for these future clients. And I'm sure it's going to be a hurdle that you'll have being a Lake Erie guide, but I'm sure you'll figure it out.
Yeah, so I try to avoid running in like rough water just because there's no reason to. But for guide trips, like what was it? Yesterday morning, there was probably 3-foot rollers out in the lake, and I was like, guys, if we're gonna catch anything, we got to go out there today. And we putzed around at like 15 miles an hour, dipping and diving around 3-foot rollers. Got to our spot after like 45 minutes, basically what felt like forever. And when we got there, they were chewing, and I'm just like. I don't have the biggest boat in the world, so it's tough to do, but we get it done with what we're doing. So it's fun.
And done safely still. So.
Absolutely. Safety and plus, like
you wouldn't be doing it if it wasn't safe.
Oh, absolutely not. So the whole ride in with Uncle Will, I was like, how's your back doing? How you feeling? Am I driving too rough for you? Do you want me to slow down? Do you want me to do this? Like I try to make it a very interpersonal approach. Not just me going out there driving, taking you fishing. I want to fish with you, break down water with you, and kind of want you to pick my brain of what's going on in my head as we fish together. And that's basically the adventure I'm going to give you when we're on the water. So we're thinking it through, working together as a tournament approach to help build your confidence in certain like finesse techniques that you might not have confidence in.
Heck yeah, dude. Well, man, we told Jeff here, we got Mr. Jeff Sprague queued up here, and we told him we give him 4 or 5 minutes because I know he's eating, but we're going to give him a few more because there's one thing I got to let the folks know here. I had a pretty big life change, I guess. I wouldn't say change, more of an upgrade this past weekend.
upgrade. I mean,
Also,
I think you could upgrade it all.
I don't want to say an upgrade, like a what would you define it as? Is like a, I don't even know how to define it. Either way, the girlfriend became the fiance.
A life-altering moment.
Life-altering, yeah.
Technically, no longer the big S word.
No. Yeah, girlfriend became the fiance. So big life changes here. But making money moves, and also got a job full time, working in the industry. I don't think I can announce it just yet. So I just want to let the folks know though that we got some cool stuff coming down the pipe. So huge stuff going down, and hopefully it's only going to make the show even better. But I'm pretty pumped. Obviously, it was a huge week for me last week. Land my now fiance, which is so weird to say.
It'll be born until you're married, and then once you get married, you're going to call her your fiance for about a year. So, Mr. Stephen Carey, the Binksky guy, I got 2 6-pounders on the Binksky today. So, just so you know.
There you go. Selfless plugs. Love it. But yeah, dude, she I was talking to Lan, who's my fiance, and she mentioned last week was such a huge week because, for one, obviously got engaged. Two, obviously you had your first guide trips. I caught my PB largemouth.
Dude,
got a job.
Forgot about the PB large.
I know, it was a crazy week, dude. Like it was absolutely nuts, and it was her 23rd birthday the weekend prior. It was crazy, but some crazy stuff. And obviously now we get to cap it off with Mr. Jeff Sprague here on a Monday night talking fishing. So it's gonna be pretty exciting. We're gonna talk some spring fishing. We're gonna talk about heavy hitters, talking about one fish getting him 100K on championship day. Like that's just gonna be a lot of fun to talk about. Talk about that story. Just got done reading the article they got on Major League Fishing. And then we're going to talk, obviously, about Lake Travis coming up, some more stuff about spring fishing. But real quick, we got a bunch of people tuning in right now. Mr. Scott Klein, Pete Scholl, what's up, buddy? Tony, who is obviously happy with his trip. And Mr. Rick Klim is asking Andrew if you have a website or social media account for your guide service. And Rick, down in the description, you can go get Andrew's social media and get in touch with him there. Mike, Honey Oy tips. I'm fishing here this weekend, so all my tips are secrets, buddy. Not that there is any secrets. It's going to be anybody's game.
Please don't let me down.
Yeah. That's too funny. But I think without further ado, man, I know Jeff's still eating dinner here, but if he's cool with it, we'll bring him on. Jeff, are you cool with jumping on here? He's down there shaking his head. What's going on, man?
Man, just got off the water trying to knock back a little food so I can chat with y'all, not pass out from low blood sugar.
Oh,
We're joined by not only Jeff, but also the Sprague family that's also sitting down having dinner with Jeff tonight. But dude,
yeah, I've got them all circled here at the bar, but they're good.
They are more than welcome to join in if they feel free. I have to say, first and foremost, I missed the Southern cooking. I appreciate the Sprague hospitality when Destin and I were down that way. Came home and obviously mother's cooking's good, but it ain't Southern cooking.
No, yeah, I'm sitting at the same bar that you had dinner at right now. So yeah, you're welcome back anytime.
Much appreciated. But dude, congrats obviously not only on second place at Heavy Hitters, but dude, 100K for one fish. Take that deal any day.
Man, that's yeah. If we could fish for that more often, we'd be able to retire a little quicker.
Right. Retirement is good.
All right. Yeah. So kind of, I guess real quick, dude, kind of walk us through that event for you because obviously you finished second place, walked away with a big old check, but I would love to, I watched the majority of it live, but I'd love to see from your point of view kind of how the event went for you.
You know, just going there to Jordan Falls and Sharon Harris it's a great place. A lot of big fish there. Great place to fish, but a very tricky place to fish. They move the water a lot there. They're not real big lakes. They get a lot of pressure from locals, and those locals are good fishermen. And so it was really good. It's a great place to fish if you're ever out that way, or if you're ever looking for a destination in the spring. That's a really underrated area to catch large fish. But we fished Jordan and we fished Sharon Harris. We didn't have to fish Falls this time. They divided us up, which was good because we were able to dial the lakes in a little bit better than having to just spend a short amount of time on each body of water. But we fished Jordan, like I said, and caught a lot of fish there on a football jig. Caught a lot of fish there on a bladed jig. They were starting to come in. The cold snap we've had this year, the really cold spring has pushed a lot of fish back for us. And so barely made it in, to believe it or not, to the knockout round off of Jordan onto Harris. Actually was in fourth place the first day on Jordan, and then slipped all the way into seventh, tied for seventh on the second round to get us into the knockout round over on Harris. So that was pretty stressful for me. And then once we got to Harris, or something along those lines, once we got to Harris, it was the same way. Like, we did really well that the morning, and then throughout the day we kind of hit the wall and barely slid in to the championship round at the end of the knockout round. And I was just thankful to have that, because I'd been on Sharon Harris before in a championship round, our last time we were there, and I really like the way that lake fishes. Has a lot of opportunity there. So just to be able to make back-to-back top tens on that place was pretty special. And then getting to go championship round for heavy hitters, that's where all the money's at. I was super, super excited to get that. Championship round obviously rolls around, and man, we started off the morning fishing topwater, and that's kind of how I made the big move the first day on Harris, was on topwater, and I just couldn't connect with them. They would eat it, they would come off, they wouldn't eat it good. And so I literally didn't catch a bass the first period, 2.5 hours, and guys are climbing the ladder and I'm sitting in dead last. So made an adjustment after the first period and started actually going around, and the sun had come up, and started looking for some bass on beds because they're not eating that well. Find some fresh fish and start catching them, make a move up the leaderboard all the way into fourth place or so from eighth. And that's when I made a pretty crucial move after the second period, the end of the second period, the very beginning of the third period, and went over and caught one off a bed. And while I'm fishing, I just blind cast a weightless ocho down the bank while I'm looking. And a lot of times you'll be surprised if there's an old female staged out there, she'll eat it and swim off with it. And guys, that's what happened. I was going down the bank and looking for them up in those the reeds, and I fire up there and it starts swimming off. And as soon as I set the hook, I see her roll on her side, and I can tell it's a better fish. It's not a giant, but it's a better fish. Get her in the boat. It's a 5.3, which is not a giant fish on that lake, but we were in between waves. Like, fish were coming and going. The females seemed to be setting off. Even when you pull up on a bed, you could see the female setting off 10 yards off, just kind of out there sunning. So it was just fishing real funky. Man, it held up. And, a few days later, it's a $100,000 fish, and it's just now sinking in that, it happened.
Yeah, the biggest 5-pounder of your life.
The most important 5-pounder, the most expensive 5-pounder in my life, for sure.
Yeah, that's for dang sure. It did really seem like you brought up how they're kind of in a funk. It did seem like that because when we look at Jordan last year, you guys straight beat their brains in, and there was a lot of giants caught, and it seemed like there were still decent numbers caught this year, but it just didn't seem like the number of 6 to 8 pounders were there, which was kind of weird. Do you think it's like you mentioned, it's just in between waves, or it was something else that could have been going on?
It's hard to say with not having a whole lot of experience on that body of water, or when I say experience, and just knowledge of that body of water. But I can tell you, it could be a combination of both, in between waves, and then they killed all the grass out of that lake. And I feel like that they may not have some of the replacement bass coming in behind because of the spawns, and there's nowhere for their fry to hide. Don't hold me to that, but that's just my personal feelings. Personal feelings on it. And so I really hope that's not the case. I've heard that they had a really tough time there this winter catching bass. They had events where 2 bass were weighed in out of a 50 boat field. So,
Jeez.
I mean, I've heard crazy stories about that. Yeah. So, but they're there, you know, there's still a lot of bass in that lake. We saw a lot of fish, you know, on beds, but the lake's not clear anymore since it doesn't have grass. And, you know, it's just a different body of water. It's changing.
Yeah. It's kind of interesting. It's a place that I think that you guys kind of helped put on the map. And it's something I didn't even realize. I actually have an uncle that lives 20 minutes away from there. So it's on the bucket list for me now to go visit him and go fish Jordan. But I saw wasn't Ish Monroe on like an absolute freak giant, had him pinned, lost him. Like I heard stories of guys that had like the big showed up at some points, but for some reason or not, they couldn't put them in the boat. But it seemed like the bigs show up to play at some point, a certain window throughout the tournament.
You know, the big females are the hardest ones to catch, obviously, and that's why they're so big. They're smarter. I saw a really big one in the tournament the day before, and I actually chose to leave her, thinking I could catch her on championship round and make 100,000 with her, and then went back championship morning. As the first place I went to look to see if she was there, she was not there. So I go to my starting area where I really wanted to start, where I left them the day before, and Alton Jones is sitting in there, power pulled down, waiting to start right where I was going to start. That's just how it goes, guys. I mean, you know,
Yeah.
I let him have it. I didn't go in there and fish with him. I'm not going to bump boats with him. That's just not the way that I like to fish. I don't feel that that's the sportsman thing to do. So I literally abandoned that area and went and found new fish, and it still worked out for me. We still finished second on brand new fish that I'd never found. And then ultimately caught that one that carried us through to the big bass too.
Heck yeah. And there's obviously a lot more strategy involved in an MLF format because obviously it's not you're only restricted to 5 fish, right? So like for a spawn fishery like that, where a lot of these fish are moving up and getting on bed, you know, how much time are you limiting yourself to when you see a fish on a bed? Are you going to restrict yourself to a certain amount of time so you're not wasting too much time?
Oh, yeah. So a lot of that we have to do with the score tracker. I will constantly ask, you know, if they're catching them, and if they're not catching them, then and it's a 4-pounder, I'm going to stay on that fish for a while, you know, and that's kind of the way my rule of thumb was there. I don't normally sight fish in derbies, you know, in Major League Fishing derbies, to be honest, of all, but they weren't catching them that well, you know, because it's a 3-pound average. That's the reason I was able to do what I did with sight fishing. I was able to bypass 2-pounders and look for 3-pounders plus to put me in the position I was in. In a regular derby, you know, I mean, that may or may not be effective, but for me, that was a strategy, and that I put into use for myself.
Yeah, championship day was 3-pound plus, right?
3 pounds, and it's not easy to catch a 3-pounder, you know, as well as I do. Even you just think about where you guys are at up north sometimes, and you know, right now it's easy to catch a 3-pounder, but wait till they go post spawn. Those 3-pounders that you're catching now, 325s, they weigh 2.7, you know, and you can't weigh them. So, and that's kind of the way it is with those largemouth too. You know, they may be long, but once they've been up there for a lengthy period of time, they just lose so much weight that they don't weigh 3 pounds anymore. So, yeah, it's definitely a strategy.
Yeah.
Now, how bad was the pollen blue?
Yeah, you know, the pollen wasn't as bad on Harris as it was on Jordan. Jordan, I literally could just power pole down in it and then walk out across it just step out of my boat and walk across it. It was so thick, I think, you know. Seriously, it was absolutely absurd. You know, it blew. In fact, it's so thick it stinks. It's almost like rotten. It's like rancid almost. It's so thick in some areas. So it's interesting to be around that.
I know you mentioned, obviously, you went on the last day and fished some new water, but were there any other kind of keys to your success that you could kind of point out to, you know, if you didn't make that certain adjustment that you wouldn't have made the final day or you wouldn't have wound up where you ended up?
You know, I mean, honestly, I kept it basic. And that is, and I knew what to do to catch those fish the way that the areas that I was looking into, because I wasn't in dirty water. You know, some of the guys were fishing in dirtier water. The areas that I was in, I was trying to find the cleanest water I could so I could see them. But the key for me was, you know, just run shorter, like just run main lakey stuff that people aren't looking at. All those pockets that we had been fishing in the last couple of days. We had shown everybody, and the local guys had found them too, and they weren't, they're out there fishing. They're going to catch them too. So when that starts happening, those fish get run by every 30 minutes or less with a new boat flipping at them. They get real leery. So I start looking for things way less obvious that guys are not going to spend time on, and that's what paid off for me.
Right. Andrew, you got anything else left for him for heavy hitters?
No, I think that's just about it. That was awesome. I was really curious about that pollen puzzle. I saw some post about it, and I was like, oh gosh, I can just imagine how bad the blade is going to be with all that pollen getting caught up in the reel and the cast. It's not fun.
Dude, I still got it on my boat. I got it on my boat trailer. I got it on my reels. I got it on my rods and the guides of my rods. It's probably like salt water. I'll probably have to go take them to the car wash and blast them all out. I'm dead serious. It's absolutely horrific. It's unreal.
Yeah. Oh, sorry.
That sucks for anybody with allergies. That would have been brutal. But Andrew, I know obviously the point of getting Jeff on is because he's very, very efficient in the springtime. And that's obviously our main topic for tonight. So you want to kick us off and hit Jeff with the question that you got in regards to springtime fishing?
Well, I guess I wanted to cover your springtime fishing, at least to start in Texas. You have the pre-spawn, and you have the spawn, and you have the dead. So what is the timing deal for each one, and how do you approach it?
So I had a hard time understanding that. Can you hear me now?
Yeah. Did I break up?
Yeah, and I'm not sure. Now when you're talking, it's real crackly for some reason. Bailey, not so much, but you. And I don't know if it's my connection or what.
Can you hear me? Is it still crackly?
Yeah, but I can hear you now, Andrew. So go ahead and hit me with that one more time.
I guess what I was asking is there's 3 different seasons, right, depending on probably in Texas in the spring where you have your pre-spawn, you have your spawn, and then you have your post-spawn, spawn, dead spawn. I was just curious how you approach each and when they kind of start happening in Texas.
Gosh, man, I get what you're asking to an extent. I get your spawn, pre-spawn, spawn, post-spawn. But I'm not sure. I mean, I can't understand. I don't know why. Should I disconnect and try to reconnect? I mean, I know this is not going to help.
Can you hear me, David?
You're kind of crackling on my end too. Do you maybe have your headphones with you?
Let me go see if I can find them. I'll be right back.
You're good. No worries. Can you hear me okay, Jeff? Am I cracking at all?
No, you're fine, Bailey. What was his question?
He was kind of crackling a little bit to me. But I think he was more talking when things are getting the pre-spawn, things are moving up to get into the spawn, what kind of things you're looking for, first thing to kind of get the first telltale signs that things are kind of setting in motion for that springtime. What are the clues you're looking for?
Yeah, sure. So, I mean, you want to go ahead and proceed even though he's not here?
Yeah, he'll be okay. He'll catch up. He's not.
Yeah, so, first thing you need to do, guys, what you need to start looking for is start watching for that water temperature to rise, okay? When you start having those nights when they're not getting down into the crazy 30s and stuff like that, and it's starting to get into those 40-degree nights and then 50-degree nights, and then, you got to look at all the telltale signs from the birds chirping and feeling that spring in the air, all the way to, watching when you're fishing and you start easing into pockets and you start fishing around. Look around your stand-in timber, look around your big boulders, look around that stuff as you're starting to fish, and you'll start to see fish mill into those areas, just kind of cruising. And those fish will let you know that they're actually up there starting to get in there, 1, to warm their eggs, 2, to get those UV rays on their bodies. And then 3, they're ultimately looking for a place to go, make a bed. And that's where that pocket or that area is where they're going to go to. So that is a telltale sign. And usually I'll start, early in that pre-spawn, I'll start looking in drains and creek channels that lead into big spawning flats, and if I can find any kind of tent timber or sharp creek turns, those are areas that fish will stop on. They'll come in, they'll get to those areas out of the main lake, and then they'll stop right there. You can pan there with your, forward-facing sonars with your Lowrance active target, and just look for those fish that are just, because what they'll do is they'll ease in there, they'll find a rock or a stump, and then they'll rise up in the water column, and they'll just sit there, and all they're doing is getting their bodies warm, germinating eggs, and getting their blood warm so they can move in even further and wait for that water temperature to get right. Those are telltale signs. So I really like secondary points. The first point that you come to when you go into a main pocket where deep water is easily accessible. Those are your primary areas that you're going to look for bass in the early spring in your pre-spawn and into your spawn. Now, once you get into spawn, sometimes the first bass that will go in the spawn will be right up on the bank in the dirt. I mean, they'll literally have their backs out of the water because they need those UV rays because the water's still cold. So they'll be as shallow as they can get. And that's where you'll look for those fish. And that doesn't make any sense, but that's how it is. And then once the water warms up down in the water column more, you'll start seeing the beds out deeper and deeper and deeper. That's the progression of the spawn. So you'll be able to find bass from the outside edges of pockets on the very shallowest water they can get into. And then as the water warms up, they'll move into the backs and backs and backs of creeks in the very back of flat areas because those cold nights don't push them right back out into the main lake or into the to the drains and things. And then that will happen obviously for the next couple of months. New fish will replace old fish. Then you'll start having balls of fry. You'll have fry garden bass, where you can start moving towards topwater bites, from full spawn looking at them or just fishing dirty water, not looking at them, dragging things around the bottom real slow through beds. And like I said, then you'll get into the spawn, where they've got balls of fry, and you can go over their heads with whether it's a wacky worm or if it's a weightless ocho, or if you want to go to a sexy dog or a frog or a pop, anything. It gets really good when they're in every aspect, man. There's some coming. There's still some that are done. There's some that are still doing it, and there's just so many different ways to catch them when they get like that. And then obviously when they go post spawn, they start heading back out. And then they start feeding even more ferociously because they got to put that weight back on because they've been up there for as long as 2 months doing it. Some fish leave overnight, they drop eggs and go. Some males stay for the whole time of their fry. I mean, every fish is different. And that's what's really cool is you have to understand is bass all have different mentality. They all have different attitudes. They're all temperamental. You know how it is when you go by one smallmouth. That sucker may swim up there and try to eat the prop off your trolling motor. And the next one, he may not want to make eye contact with you. Everyone's different. You just have to recognize that.
True.
When you say that, the smallmouth thing, can you hear me better now?
No, but keep talking. I'll take you.
So, can you hear me, Bailey?
I can hear you. It's crackling a little bit still. I don't know what's up with that.
Let me drop out and I'll come right back.
Okay. So Jeff, are you, take forward-facing sonar out of the picture. Are you finding any of these fish using kind of like getting on your outboard and like on side imaging and like that? Are you finding them with electronics, or is it more of kind of using your intuition to find these fish?
No, it's honestly, there are guys that can find them, especially where you guys are at in that deeper water. They can find those fish out on beds, because they spawn so much deeper where you guys are. Down in the south, they don't necessarily spawn that deep. Our water's not that clear, so they really have to get up there to get the sunlight and the UV rays. Where you guys at, the UV rays can penetrate so much deeper into the water. It's just different. But I haven't really used the forward-facing sonar to locate spawning fish yet. I'm sure in the future it's coming. But for now, I mean, obviously everything that I do is old school. Just the way I grew up catching them and the way I grew up finding them.
Right.
Nice.
Now, and talk from a pre-spawn moving into a spawn standpoint. Are you kind of having the same maybe 3-4 baits on deck and just moving to find active feeding fish, or are you kind of experimenting with different baits and such if you know that there's some fish around?
I always keep what I have confidence in on the deck of my boat, and that's what I will search for bass with. Once I get into an area and I know that there's fish there, whether I see them or whether I find them with my location baits, then I will change some baits around and try to figure out what is the best way to catch that particular set of bass, whether it's a heavier weight, a lighter weight, a different color, a moving bait. That's when I start making those adjustments.
Right. Andy, how's your audio over there, buddy?
I'm not sure. I can hear you guys loud and clear, but whenever I talk, it crackles. I can hear it like crackling.
Yeah. I don't know why that is. We're gonna have to get that figured out. But
yeah, I'm not sure. Let me close the browser and I'll log back in real fast. That's the only thing I can think to try.
Jeff, how is he to you right now? Is he okay?
It's
or
the
is
same way. Like I hear the crackling even when you talk, Bailey, but now I don't hear it when he logs off.
Yeah, I think it's something with his server. It must be because, like you mentioned, I hear it a little bit when I've spoken, but when he logs out, I don't really hear much of it at all. It's really weird.
Not as bad.
Right. It's very interesting. Andy, let's try it now.
How do I sound?
You still can't hear him, Jeff?
I can hear him, but I can hear him. It's just you're still pretty, Andrew, but it's just not. It's the audio is still a little crackly.
That's interesting.
It's really weird. I think what this is telling us, Andy, is we just need to get a studio so we both have the same audio, and I think that's just the how you take. But no, so for you, Jeff, I guess my last question pertaining to spring fishing is is it more of a pattern deal for you, or are you kind of going around junk fishing until you figure something out?
In the spring, I don't feel like I junk fish that much. There'll just be, most of the time there's an area that's better than other areas for one reason or another, whether it's the water's got some stain to it or the water's cleaner or whatever the case may be. And when you find that area, that will be the area that's better than most of the other areas on the lake for that particular week. And then that area will cool off or warm up, and then another area will get good. Because not all the fish go at the same time. One creek will go today. A week later, the next creek up will go. You may go into a creek today and not see a single bass. And then, you found them the same day. Like you went into one creek and didn't see one. Then you went 2 creeks up and you're like, they're everywhere. Well, then the derby starts and all those fish you found are gone. Well, that's because one of those other creeks that didn't have them before is now lit up and they're all doing it in there, because they go in waves in every little stretch and things like that. So that's the coolest part about fishing is it may be this side of the lake today and that side of the lake next week, or this end of the lake today and that end of the lake next week. It's ever changing. And that's why you have guys who are like, man, I was on them. It was such a good practice, and they're dead last. They don't catch them. And it's because they try to force the area they were in and, they missed it, meaning they found them in practice and it was wide open, perfect. And then in the derby, something changed and they didn't really find another area to get it done in. So, that's my explanation for it. And it seems to work for me. So that's why you always hear me talk about running new water. That's just what I do. I just love to run new water. I don't have any preconceived notions of where I'm going to get bit. And I fish everything hard and accurately. And that way, I don't fish right up to a dot where I got a bite or two and then not get a bite and get just all spun out because I didn't get bites in that same spot I got them in before.
Right. That makes sense.
Fair point. Always keeping your options open.
That's right. That's exactly right.
Yeah. Now, so for somebody, you mentioned how you thought that there's a certain point they're in between waves of these spawners, right? So they kind of get in this funk. For somebody, that realizes that they're in that kind of funk, what is the first adjustment or first move that they should make to try to obviously conquer seeing that funk being obviously when they see that funk happening? What should be their first, move or adjustment they can make?
Slow down, because when you know you're in an area where there's fish, whether you're seeing them or you're going down through there and you can see them swimming off beds or swimming off the bank and they're just not eating, and you made casts up there, and then you roll up there to get something unhung or whatever, and then you see them swim off and they didn't eat. You've got to do something different, meaning figure out what it is, meaning do you need to throw something and get a reaction bite out of those fish, or do you need to try to really slow down and slow presentation, really small, things, throw something tiny, just try to figure out what they'll eat. And that's what I mean when I say slow down. Just slow down, calm down, and figure out what you can do to make those fish eat. That's the biggest thing when you see that they're in that funk.
Yeah. Do you think a lot of people leave areas too fast because they'll throw like their moving baits, their top waters? If they don't get bit, they'll leave the area because they don't think any fish are there, when in reality they probably, like you said, just need to slow down, and they probably just get on the same fish, just a different presentation.
100%. I do it every day. I do it every day. So, but I mean, that's it. A guy, you may go through there with a bladed jig, and I come right behind you with a shaky head and just clean house, and they just weren't eating a moving bait. And that's what a guy has to understand is there is no right or wrong way. You may hit this pocket and not catch a bass on a moving bait, go to the next pocket and catch 6, and then go 3 more pockets and not catch any. It just really depends on how they're set up and what that particular group of fish is feeding on in that creek. Some creek it'll be shad, some creek it'll be brim, and the next one may be crawfish up another quarter mile or half mile if there's some that's the honest truth. And I've found that numerous times across the country. So a guy has to have a little bit of everything on the deck of his boat or in his rod locker ready to go.
Right. So beyond obviously temperatures at night, right, when you kind of can realize these fish are moving up to spawn, are there any clues that you see, like say you show up to the ramp, are there any clues that you see just visually looking at the lake when you can kind of feel like, let's go check up shallow to see if they might be moving up on bed or getting up on bed? Is there kind of any clues that you see just kind of from looking around?
Yeah. So as soon as you start to see blooms on trees, any type of blooms, whether it's a dogwood, whether it's a flower, any of that. And like I said, I mean, honestly, when you start hearing the birds come out and start chirping, and it's just something that you connect with nature with when you're outdoors enough. And I really feel like I am, because I'm an outdoors person. I spend a lot of time outside. You get that feel of spring is in the air, and it's, and that's when you really need to start concentrating and looking for that stuff. And again, I go back to the blooming of the trees and the blooming of flowers and things like that. As soon as you start seeing any leaves or any blooms, you need to really start getting ready for that spawn, because it's imminent. It's really close.
Right. We have a question here from Tony. It's kind of similar to the question that I asked you about bed fishing, how much time you'll spend on a certain bed. And he kind of asked, how long would you throw something before you switch it up if you're not running into any fish?
If you're not running into any fish?
Yeah,
so if you're not catching anything.
Sorry.
Okay. Now, if you're seeing them and you're not catching them, you need to change something, whether it's a weight. If you're seeing them and you're not able to get them to eat, you might try something over their heads, because sometimes when they're spawning, they won't feed down. They'll feed up. They'll be more aggressive towards something over their heads. Sometimes if they won't eat a plastic, sometimes you got to wind something by them, like a crankbait, a spinner bait. You'll be amazed how many bass will eat a spinner bait off a bed, because it resembles a brim or some shad coming by them. They hate it. So you have to keep all those things open, and constantly rotate that until you find what they want that day. And it will change again at some point, either that day or the next day or the next day. It'll always change. And that's the thing about fishing. I mean, it's constantly changing. Those fish's attitudes and mood change by the barometric pressure, by the water color, by the water temperature, by everything dictates how they act, by the wind. So a guy has to keep all those things readily available for for access to it, because at some point you're going to need it.
It's a really good question, Tony. That's something I kind of struggle with, honestly. Is, especially if it's a confidence bait, especially if you're not seeing them right, but fish are in the area and they're not committing to something. And even take it from like a practice deal, right, where you got bit on that same scenario, conditions in practice, you go to tournament day, and they're not eating it. It's like, well, I know at some point they're gonna eat it, but then you're like, I know they might eat something else, but like you're like afraid to switch. And it's in your mind when you're in that scenario, you get bit on a certain bait in practice, you can't see them, right? So maybe it's dingier water, same conditions, they won't eat it, but fish are there. Is your same move just slow down like you mentioned earlier, or is there other adjustments that you might try to make?
Yeah, no, and that's what I'm saying. So if you had gotten bit there before and there's fish in the area, in fact, you're almost positive that they're there, and you just need to power pole down and throw different baits at them just to see if you can make them react. Whether that is go super slow with something small, something bigger and bulkier to move more water to make them see if they want something that's really in their face. You wind something through there, whether it's a 1.5 or whatever, a spinner bait. You have to try several different things to see if you can get them to react to it. And if you can figure out which one, if it's one or the other, then you'll know, boom, you need to be doing that one for that, that particular period of time. And then all of a sudden you'll realize, I haven't had a bite in 30 minutes. Let me pick this other thing back up, and you'll get into another area, whether the water's cleaner or whatever, and you'll pick up a flipping bait again, and boom, you go right back to getting bit on that. Now you just established that when you get around some dingier water, instead of flipping to them or casting to them, you need to be winding something through them. You'll be amazed. Like little telltale signs like that are what I'm talking about.
Yeah, no, I think that makes really good sense. I mean, I think Andrew and I kind of experienced that last week. We went out and we had 27 pounds one of the days last week, and basically we just found out a pattern. It was just you get 1 or 2, 3 bites on one bait, and then it would kind of slow down, and then we'd put the rod down, pick something else up, and at first cast you get hit with something else. So that we get 2 or 3 bites and put something else down, throw something new at them. And it kind of seemed like it didn't matter what you threw; it just had to be new, like something different. It seemed like they got conditioned to it really fast.
That's exactly right. I mean, again, it's not that they're getting conditioned. I don't feel like that's in our mind, because what I think it is every fish has a different attitude. Every fish wants something a little bit different, like in that you may catch 2 or 3 on this and then 1 on that and then 3 more on the other. I mean, it just is, that's just something a little different for each one.
That makes a lot of sense. Yeah, like you mentioned,
some onions on my hamburger.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, like you mentioned though, like some fish might feed down, some fish might feed up, some might want it dragged, some might want it burned. I think it's a really good point.
Yeah.
Our good buddy here, Forrest Buckin, has a good question. And it's actually one that I've been seeing discussed a lot lately. And it's asked on bed fishing: are you using a bright color like a white or a red, or a more natural color? Because I think it's more of a natural presentation when you're bed fishing. Like, what's your kind of your go-to? Because I can see the pluses of both.
Yeah. So, and I've done both, obviously, my whole life. I've fished with both bright colors and natural colors. And like at Harris, those fish were really aggressive toward bluegill. They would actually run a bluegill off their bed and come right back. So that's an immediate sign for me to throw a natural color, something that mimics a bluegill. I did that, and that's what they ate from me. What's crazy is if you listen to Wheeler said all he could get bit on was white. So, I mean, but for me, I really like to go with the natural color first. Most people like a bright color so they can see it when a fish has it in its mouth. And I get that. I feel like a lot of times I can get them to eat something that's more natural quicker, personally. But then again, I haven't thrown white or pink or orange or anything crazy in a very long time. I always go with the natural color for me. So, but there is no right or wrong answer, because like you just heard, I caught him on a natural color, and another one of the greatest anglers that's on the tour right now caught them on, a really bright color. So my suggestion would be keep a pocket full of baits, natural and that. And if a fish nips at something and he doesn't get it, pull it off, put a different color on, and flip it back in there, and you'll be surprised what happens whenever you change colors, even though it's the exact same bait.
Right. Yeah, and it's kind of something I've been more swaying to the side of, like you said, more natural, because to that fish, that female or male, whichever one, or maybe even both that's on the bed, it looks more natural, right? In terms of they've seen that before, it looks more like a threat to obviously their bed, their eggs, and that such, and that's kind of along the lines you deal with, and more of relating the feel. And if obviously, for Andy and I up here in the north, how crystal clear it is, it doesn't matter really what color you throw because it's crystal clear. You got to see everything. Well, I think we might have our best question of the night, and I might actually have an answer for Mike here. He says, "How many fish do I have to catch in spring to convince my wife fishing isn't a waste of time?" And I think the best answer to that question would be, as long as your one fish is worth $100,000, you don't have to convince her otherwise.
That's exactly right. And this is my suggestion, okay? This is just my suggestion. If she thinks fishing's a waste of time, run down to your local Harley dealership, buy yourself a Harley, and then start buying yourself a bunch of accessories to go on it, and ask her if fishing is really now such a waste of time. She'll love it.
She might tell you to return the Harley and keep fishing.
Exactly.
That's when you have to break out that old school reverse psychology and be like, but I could have worse hobbies.
Yeah.
Yeah,
throwing it out there. Tell it you know.
Exactly. We have a question. It's obviously it's another question that's honestly been talked about a lot recently, especially with the MLF April Fool's ending excellent deal, which was genius and hilarious, by the way. But he asked asking about your opinion on scents, if you use smell like a tang or smelly jelly or stuff along those lines.
Absolutely, yes. So we don't talk about it a whole lot. Scents are not talked about very often. But I literally turned around on day 2 at Jordan and went back and picked up my smelly jelly. It blew out of the boat because I let it lay on the front deck in a cup holder and it bounced out. I was not leaving my smelly jelly floating in Lake Jordan in North Carolina. It's been with me too long, so I went and picked it up and brought it with me. And yeah, especially whenever you're spawn fishing and things, and you expect that bass to hang on to it. If it helps that bass, if you flip it in there multiple times and you get that scent in the water, I do feel like that sometimes helps. So big deal. Yeah, absolutely. And if you already have a motorcycle, then go buy yourself like a Mustang GT and start decking it out.
GT Shelby 500.
She'll really be like, go fishing.
Just keep climbing the ladder for expense. I love it.
Absolutely.
That's funny. Yeah, just keep at it until you get the results you want. That's funny.
My favorite thing with like the smelly jelly comment is if you have like a slight breeze, if there's another angler nearby, they're gonna know what scent you're using because they're probably gonna smell it in 80-degree weather. So like I was fishing this flat one time a few years ago, and the guy I know, I'm watching him like dip baits in something, and all of a sudden I was like, oh, like 80 yards away from him. I was like, how old's that smelly jelly? He just started laughing. It's just crazy. That stuff is so stinky, especially like if you have them for like the mid 90s and you've had them for a long time, they reek so bad.
Yeah. Yeah. And hey, nothing better than whenever you do have a co-angler and you put a big old glob of smelly jelly on there and you fling it and it just goes all across the back of his neck. His wife would never believe he was fishing one day.
Woo. Oh man, it's brutal. Just put a little on your finger and like rub it on the back of his neck as you walk by. Just has no idea.
That or just take your old jig and drag it around the lip of his cold drink and then just make a flip and it picks it up. Oh, yeah. Love you forever.
Oh man. That's brutal.
Prank time with Jeff Sprague.
I've seen guys pull pranks on each other where they take like that bang spray and they'll take like the guy's like face mask or whatever that he wears like for the sun, and they spray the inside. So when he puts it on, he's just snuffing bang. It's brutal.
Nah.
So a guy comes in all burned, and he goes, "Why you all sunburned?" He goes, "I couldn't put my face mask on, so I staring at the guy."
It's a good friends right there.
Yeah, right.
If you're not pulling pranks on people, you're not friends. So
yeah, that's right. Well, Jeff, dude, what is it? The 19th today, so coming up in what? Yeah, next week. We're looking forward to Lake Travis. I'm sure you don't have that far of a travel, which is probably nice. But what are your opinions? What are you thinking about for Lake Travis next week?
So Travis is about 3.5 hours from me. Been there once before with FLW Tour. It's not a destination fishery. It's got a lot of fish in it, just not a lot of big ones. I think that MLF is considering going down to a 1 pound 8 ounce minimum there because of the biology reports that they've received. There's just not that many 2 pound bass in that lake. So we want the lake to show off. We want to be able to show that there are a lot of bass in the lake by weighing some of those fish. But 2 pounders are really hard to come by from what I've been told there. So I'm excited about going there. I like tough derbies, but the lake sounds like it's 30-foot low. Not a lot of fish, not a lot of big fish in it. But it should be interesting. Those are the type of fisheries, you had the bass guys just come down from the Orange where they're catching 7 pound limits while we're in Raleigh catching 7 pound bass. Just part of what we do. We travel to these different fisheries. So, I'm excited about it being that it's close to the house, but also know how tough it can actually be.
All right. Isn't it like a crystal clear fishery?
Yeah, it is. It's a rock lake. It's really deep, canyonous, some big marinas on it, and it's not what I grew up fishing, so it ought to be interesting, but probably be a little bit of spawn still going there, probably a lot of post spawn and things going on. So another reason that the fish will weigh light is because they've already spawned and they're thin from being up there. So a lot of that will go into play, and the reason that MLF made the decision to go to a 1.8, if that's the actual decision that we do make.
Right. Any preconceived notions yet going into it that whether you want to talk about it or not? What do you think you might be doing down in Travis?
We'll catch some. I don't know.
Taken.
Yeah, I'll be honest with you, it's post spawn. I'm gonna go look for them, catch them on top water and things like that, and that's just a really solid way to catch fish post spawn, and that's what I'll probably push, to be honest with you, and just cover a lot of water and see as much of that lake as I can see in a day and 3/4 of practice, and then come Derby Day make my decision on what I felt most comfortable, where I felt like I could catch the most and the heaviest fish.
Yeah, I think the last big, we were kind of talking about it briefly offline. The last big tournament trail, I think, to be at Lake Travis was Texas Test. I think that's where Drew Benton won on top one.
Yeah, and obviously, that's all. Anything public information is public. But I really, you guys are not going to believe this. I don't watch YouTube videos. I don't research lakes. I don't do anything. The closest thing to research that I do is current lake levels, whether the water's rising, falling, or stable. And then I go to the lake and I figure out on my own. Every time that I've ever tried to research the lake or watch a YouTube video, it leads me in the wrong direction. When I first started my career, which, that's been some years ago now. So in the past, 8 years or so, I have not watched any or done any research when I go to fish. And that's probably the exact opposite of what most anyone would tell you. But the last thing I can do is go and catch a fish someone else has showed me how to catch, or watch a video and I get a preconceived notion. I want to go there and fish my strengths and look for the fish that I can catch. And that's why I feel like I'm successful.
Yeah, it keeps you level-headed, clear-minded. And I'm honestly jealous, but my brain's just so OCD that, like, if I don't do any research, I go crazy, especially if I have a bad turnout. But like, I'm jealous in the fact that you can go there, be confident, clear-minded, do what you want to do. Like, that's pure though, and I think that's what's really good, and that honestly probably speaks to why you're so successful, is because you just keep sticking to where your confidence is in. But yeah, that's gonna be fun to watch. I'm looking forward to that Travis event because, well, honestly, just because one, there's not been a lot of tournaments on Travis to even watch, but two, seeing how you guys on that major league format adjust to a Lake Travis, seeing the different adjustments you have to make, being that it is such a difficult fishery, right? Just to even get these quality bites. So if that that average fish, like you guys are talking about, pound and a half to maybe 2 pounds, seeing what adjustments some guys might make to try to get that edge on the other guy, right? So that's gonna be a fun one to watch.
It will be.
Rick Klibb says, "Hey Jeff, what do you think about throwing a 4-inch lizard bait to mimic a salamander on bedded fish?"
A lizard is probably the most tried and true bed fishing bait that's ever been produced. I fished with Stacy King, one of the greatest fishermen that's ever lived, and Stacy King taught me bass eat lizards on beds, boys. So that's a great bait to throw at a bed and bass. And I'll be honest with you, it's probably caught more bass off beds than any lure ever produced because it's been around so long. So great choice there.
Right. That should be on a T-shirt. Lizards catch bass on beds, boys. That should be a T-shirt.
That'd be a great one.
Not different from Jeff Sprague.
Yeah. Well, dude, really quick, one of my last questions for you, and then we'll obviously let you go because you're with family and we don't want to take up too much of your time tonight. But I know Lake Fork was one of your favorite. Obviously, you live close to it, and the lead event is coming up. My only question on that is, do you think it's going to be one purely off of spawning fish, or do you think post-spawners are going to play?
It won't be one strictly off spawning fish. A guy just can't do it there. There's too much local pressure, too many out of town guys coming in that they're there for vacations and they're throwing live bait at those fish, and they've got ladders strapped to the deck of their boats, and they're picking them off. So I don't think a guy's going to necessarily be able to win it on that. There's so many fish in that lake that are done, still coming, and they're in every stage. I think you're going to see a guy who mixes it up do really, really well there. Yeah, it's going to be an interesting week because we've got some cool weather here, meaning like it's getting into the 40s at night, and that's not where it's been. So I feel like it's going to push those fish off a little bit and make them be in that funk we were talking about earlier. Now, I could be wrong, but we'll see. You'll see some guys do well doing different things that you're not expecting, I feel like.
That'd be sweet. Thank you.
Cool.
Well, Jeff, is there anything exciting coming down the pipe? Obviously, Travis is coming up, and then you guys go to Florida at the end of May. Anything else exciting down the pipe that the folks should know before we let you go?
Yeah, we've got a new line of rods coming out, and everybody gets to put their rods where they want to put them. Everybody tries to go to Bass Pro or Academy, and I grew up in the country, a poor kid, and the only place that we could ever go was Walmart. So I really wanted to put our rods in Walmart, and we're working with Luz on that to get rods in Walmart, and they're going to be the quality that anybody would expect. But I want to be able to get those in front of kids who don't get the opportunity to go to Bass Pro and Academy and grandmas and grandpas and aunts and uncles. And you can actually roll into a Walmart and pick up a quality rod that is going to be good at a Walmart instead of having to worry about driving to a big box store somewhere else. It's been a long time since I felt like Walmart carried a really good rod that you could honestly, do anything with. So I'm excited about that. They should be out in October in Walmart.
Sweet. That's huge. Well, congratulations on that. And obviously congratulations again on second place and big old payday for one fish. That's pretty crazy. I don't know any other series where you can catch 100 or you can catch one fish and win $100K. So that's a pretty sick deal. And obviously congratulations on that. I'm sure you're excited about it. I'm sure the family's excited about it. Dude, obviously, good luck, and I'm like Travis. We'll be watching, we'll be rooting for you, and as always, we really appreciate you coming on the show. And
Yeah, thank you.
It's always good to have you on, man.
Yeah, no problem, Bailey. Thank you, Andrew. I appreciate it. Anytime, boys, and maybe we can win a couple of these things this year, and we'll have another podcast or two to chat about them.
You bet.
Absolutely, and anytime, yeah.
Okay, boys. Hey, save me a spot up north. I'm coming up there to catch some of them brown ones soon.
Yeah, when you're here, let us know. We'll get you out.
You got it, brother. I definitely will. So I appreciate y'all having me on, guys. I'm going to eat some dinner.
All right, man. Take care.
Enjoy. We'll see you later.
Later. Thank you.
Good dude. Jeff is honestly, dude. Jeff is probably one of the most genuine and probably one of the most generous, considerate people that I've met in the industry. Like we talked about very briefly towards the beginning of the show is when I went down to Texas at Lake Fork with Destin and Prefish and do some media work for him. And, Jeff just welcomed, he had like a family party and welcomed Destin and I over to sit down, eat their food. They made extra food for us. Like, it's like Southern hospitality is a thing. Like it's legit. And people talk about it, but like, it's a real thing. And so again, like, I know it's long overdue, but huge shout out to Jeff Sprague and his family for hosting myself and Destin. We had dinner, we got to meet the family, and it was a really cool deal. And kind of what those family values are down the South. And I think a lot of people in the North need to kind of install that Southern hospitality.
I do not disagree.
Yeah.
How's my audio now? Is it better?
Your audio is fine. Your audio is great now. Folks, if you guys are still tuning in right now, let me know if you guys have any issues with either mine or Andrew's audio. That was kind of a weird hiccup there, but hopefully you guys could still, listen to Jeff and hear him okay and hear our questions all right. But either way, it was a really insightful show. Obviously doing with spring fishing because there could be a lot of, pre-spawn fishing seems like the super easy, which I'll be honest, pre-spawn fishing in the North is stupid easy. Like,
dumb.
For the most part, if you have a hook, you're going to catch a fish in the pre-spawn in the North. But there are times where, like, Jeff mentioned, where there's these little funks now moving from pre-spawn to spawn, where they kind of get in these little funks, these little waves that kind of like there's almost like a little intermission where it's like it makes you scratch your head and like, what the heck is going on? You're smashing them here 2 days ago. They're not here now, but 2 days later, you're going to smash them again because it's just that difference in waves and kind of getting them on the highway in transition. It's weird, man. But what are your takeaways from tonight's show?
Oh, I think it was a great show. And I was going to go back into the funk status. And this is a little shout out there to Mike B., one of our listeners, about Honeyway. So here's a Honeyway hot take. I fished it, last Sunday now, and I had 3 bites in the first 4 hours I fished there, and I love that lake. I feel I can figure it out. And once I figured out what they were doing, it was literally a certain color, a certain bait. And once I figured that out, I literally caught them like every other cast in one certain section. But 3/4 of the lake was crap because they just weren't there. And if they were there, they were either short striking or they were real little fish. So, funk. It took me 3.5 hours in rain and wind to figure out where they were and what they were doing. But once we did, we found them. And that's what he was speaking to, is you constantly have to chase a pattern. And once you figure it out, slow down and pick it apart.
Yeah, there you go. Dave Fogelman. Never heard or saw Jeff before. Very smart, thoughtful, genuine dude. New fan. Follow his career. Yeah, Jeff is very, very intelligent. And like I mentioned, he's probably one of the most genuine guys that I've met in the industry. Met him at the Classic last year. The rod designer, Fred Kintawi from Douglas, introduced me to him. And he's just a really, really genuine dude. And he's just one of those good old Southern boys that don't tell. Is Mike? Are you fishing that Honeyway event for NYKBF this weekend? Because if that's so, I might have to talk a little bit of trash here. But
and I fished with Bailey the day after, 2 days after, so 2 days in a row. So Bailey knows everything that I did and where I fished. Sorry, Mike.
It's okay. I mean, Honeyway is one of those places, man, where it's like it could be anybody's game this time of year. It doesn't matter where you are, just because that the majority of those fish are all like cookie cutters, and it's it's pretty much whoever's going to have the horseshoe and catch, this. If we're talking kayak terms, because you said, okay, yeah, you're fishing Saturday. Whoever catches that 17 or 18 is going to have the upper edge. It's just one of those places, man. I think if you just cover enough water or weed through enough fish, it's probably just who's going to take the cake. But there really isn't. It's not one of those lakes where you can really, like, in my opinion, feel free to disagree, to dial in a certain pattern, a certain area to consistently win.
Yeah, I actually do agree with that. There are so many fish in that dang lake. I kind of go with it at two approaches. When I fish honey, I try to break it down in quadrants, right? Where is the most productive water? Where is the least productive water? Where can I maybe get a big bite or two? And where am I going to start?
Yeah.
So, and that's the way I break down the lake, but I have a bass boat, so I can kind of run all over the place. So it's a little bit harder for a kayak, but I mean, there are little honey holes on that lake in Honey. I like honey holes on Honey Eye, whatever. But literally that lake is loaded with 1.5 to 2 pound fish. But I have found, especially in the summertime there, if you catch a better than average fish in an area, there's usually more of the same size fish in that area. It's just weeding through endless amounts of 1.5 pounders.
Literally. Just endless. But it can be fun. In terms of numbers, it can be a lot of fun. But no, it's gonna be good, dude, because this weekend is my first tournament of the year from the kayak, and it's just gonna be one where it's a charity tournament. So obviously it's for a good cause, but first place is $1,000 guaranteed. So we're gonna go into that one, just open mind, go have fun. I'll probably try to get out of practice. I can't even talk. Probably going to try to get out to practice one of the days this week and see if we can put together anything significant just to get a lot of bites. I think that's the kind of approach I'm going to take, is just try to get a lot of bites and therefore just see what we can do and hopefully win $1,000. But other than that, it's going to be good. First tournament's this weekend, second tournament's next weekend, and we are getting the ball rolling here moving forward. But exciting stuff. This past 2 weeks have been insanity. And hopefully we can keep that good vibes, good news, good life moves. Keep it going. So I think with that, dude. I think with that, that's good for me. Do you have anything else left for the folks before we sign off here?
We still have to have 2 coffee winners, and we also have to announce the Hobie Eyewear winner from our post last week.
Yeah, so for the folks, if you guys are not following us on social media, whether it be Instagram or Facebook, make sure you guys do that, because once a month we're going to be giving away some pretty sick Hobie Eyewear shades. I think I do actually have this month's pair with me tonight. Anywhere from $70 to $100, we're giving them all away for free every month moving forward to the end of the year, and hopefully continuing on to next year. So our winner for tonight, Andrew, do you have our winner?
It is on Instagram. His name handle is Anthony_Diaz_tree. So we'll get a message out to you, and then hit us up with your address if you're listening tonight. So congratulations.
We'll be sending you some Hobie Eyewear. We'll be getting that your way, and hopefully, if you are watching, reach out to us. If you're not, obviously, we're going to post tomorrow morning on the social media. Can you only wear the Hobie shades while pelling a Hobie? No. No, you can wear it with whatever you want to do, whether on a boat, whether you're on a kayak, does not matter.
They actually make a really good driving lens too, so they have you covered for every spectrum that you want to go on. So who wins the coffee tonight, Bailey?
I think coffee for me, the question that really kind of piqued my interest. Let's see, I'm trying to find it here. It's actually your client here. Oh, I shouldn't say one of your clients, but one of your guide buddies, Tony Beeler. Did I pronounce that right? His question about how long do you throw something before you switch it up if you're not catching anything, because that's a topic that eats at me all the time, is like, should I be switching, or should I, like, I've gotten bit on this already multiple times. Should I stick with it? Should I make that adjustment? So I think I'm going with Tony. Tony, if you're still tuning in, dude, you want some coffee, and obviously reach out to us, get us your information if you don't have Andy's number or contact already, and we'll get some coffee sent out to you. Shadow, there's not Hobie police. People like put Hobie on this pedestal of but they're honestly quality. The best way I can kind of describe it to you, because Andrew and I don't like to have a crazy sales pitch like every other platform does. We kind of like to go on the detail, like kind of along the lines of if we use them, it's because it's quality. We only pride ourselves on using quality. And that is these shades. I guess the best way to compare them to is they're basically Costas for $70 to $100.
Yeah,
and they mold my face just like I came from Costa Fantails, and I've been using the Mojos from Hobie, and basically have been the best. Well, I shouldn't say the best. I wasn't trying to say the best. They've been very similar in terms of fit. But the lenses have been a little bit more customizable, which I've thoroughly enjoyed.
that's
So
awesome.
I would give them a shot, personally.
Yeah, I can't wait to get mine in. I'm getting some prescription ones, so I'm waiting for those to roll in here. As we know, that usually takes a little bit longer for them to get the lenses correct with prescription. So once we get those in, and then my coffee winner, I mean, I have a special place in my heart for scents. So Tyler Vanderbilt is going to get the second bag of. I think it's what we're going to send out Serious Angler.
We're going to be getting so for folks who might be fans of the show, we actually we're working with Outdoorsman Coffee. David Cruz over there is doing a really good job at trying to grow the brand, and has really been generous in giving us product every single week to give away to you guys. And now he's made a Serious Angler line of coffee over at Outdoorsman Coffee. So you can go over, you can purchase yourself some Serious Angler coffee, and get yourself some. And if you guys do, post it on social media, tag us in it. We'd love to see it and share it. Post it on our page. But shout out to Tyler for winning the other bag of coffee. I think I actually have Tyler's contact information, because he's a local guy here, tournament angler.
Sweet.
He's bought some rods off me in the past. I'll get his information. We'll get some coffee sent out. But other than that, dude, I'm sure you got some other guide clients coming up this weekend.
Yeah, so the next 2 weekends I have guide trips, 2 days with this weekend is one guy coming up, April 24th and 25th. So it's a birthday trip. My buddy Kyle is coming in. And we're going to do 2 days on Erie, hopefully. We got some snow coming Wednesday, so we'll see how much that messes up everything. And then May 1st and 2nd, I also have a trip that weekend. 2 guys are coming in from PA. And then I have a derby on May 8th, Cash and Rods Derby on the Finger Lakes here. It's I believe it's like a charity event for New York State High School fishing. So I'm going to be fishing that. And then pretty much free the rest of May. So I have a couple dates open. I think I have 3 dates available, middle of May, 15th, 16th, and 23rd. And then Memorial Day weekend, I have 1 date available. So if anybody wants to go catch some smallies, fish along with me, learn the ins and outs of catching deep or spawners at that point, or we can maybe even go jerk baiting. It all depends on what the day brings us. But let me know, and we'll go crack them and have some fun.
Heck yeah.
As you can see, I've put the clients in my boat have put up 27 pounds the last 2 days. So we are on them.
On them and on them good. But if you guys aren't already, obviously go over to Instagram and Facebook, follow the Serious Angler page, and for content and up-to-date shows that are coming down the rope, and obviously what we got in store for giveaways, giving you guys free stuff. But also go over and follow us on our personal socials. If you want to get in touch with Andy on Catch a Smallmouth, again, you got clients, you got friends that want to get some guided trips, obviously go down below. All of our information, whether it be discount codes, social media, anything along those lines, go down the description below. All of our information is there. Every single show post, all of our information is down below. But I think that is going to do it for now. And obviously, we'll be coming at you guys on Wednesday. We have a really good show with Jake Boomer, who is the president of Alpha Angler Rods. We talked to Jake about not only himself as an angler, but we broke it down and talked about some technique-specific rods that he builds, the process of building those rods.
That was a fun one.
Along those lines. It was a lot of fun. So look forward to that for Wednesday. Facebook won't let me make an account because I think Shadow passing this time. Oh boy. But yeah, look forward to that on Wednesday. And if you guys are still listening to this on an MP3 side, if you're watching on a Facebook or YouTube side and you're feeling really generous right now, run over to Apple Podcasts and drop us a quick rating and review. It really helps us get noticed by more people, and that obviously helps our show be able to provide more content for you guys at a higher level. And that's the plan. Just keep taking it one level higher each and every day that we can, each and every episode. And hopefully you guys enjoy it, and hopefully you keep tuning into the show. We always appreciate everybody tuning in. We'll see you guys on Wednesday.
And real fast, WFO AT&T. If you're still listening, shoot me an email, fullfishingguideservice@gmail.com, or find me on Instagram underneath the same handle, Full Fishing Guide Service. And if you're in May those days, let's get you out and catch you some fish. I just noticed that. So if I would shoot that up.
All of Andrew's information is down below. But as always, folks, we appreciate you guys tuning in. We'll see you guys on Wednesday.